Ordinary is such an ordinary word, it doesn't have connotations of grandeur, connotations of anything exciting and so on. It's just ordinary. Yet, of course, it's the opposite when it comes to the seasons in the church here. The church goes through the whole life of Christ, what we call the Christ event in the liturgy. So we go through the seasons of the birth of Jesus, the death and resurrection of Jesus, including the sending forth of the Holy Spirit, the fact that Christ will come again. We go through the whole Christ event. And at certain times of the year, we focus on certain events as part of that big Christ event. The birth of Jesus, for example, at Christmas. The fact that Christ will come again at Advent. The death and resurrection of Jesus in Lent and the Easter season. What about the rest of the year? We don't focus on particular events in the life of Jesus. We focus, as it were, on the ordinary days, his everyday, the ordinary mission that Jesus conducted, except, of course, it was anything but ordinary. We call it this ordinary time when it's not focused on a specific event, the birth, the death, the resurrection, and so on. We call it ordinary time. But when we look at what we celebrate, what we go through, all that Christ said and did and taught in this part of the year. So we deal with specifics in the seasons of Lent, Advent, and so on. We deal with the general in ordinary time. So we look at the miracles, the feeding of the 5,000, the healing of the blind man. We look at the parables of Jesus, the sower and the seed, the rich man and the poor man. We look at his teaching. We look at his teaching on, for example, he says, you have heard how it was said, you must not commit murder, but I say this to you. Then we have his teachings on forgiveness and how to deal with riches. We have all of this in ordinary time. So we celebrate ordinary time as we do the seasons throughout a year. And in ordinary time, weekdays, there are 34 ordinary weeks, as it were, in the season. And in these 34 weeks, we look at Mark's Gospel for 9 weeks. We look at Matthew from week 10 to week 21, and then 22 to 34 we look at Luke. So we go through the whole of the Gospel, and then John at seasons, Christmas, Easter, and so on. But in ordinary time we go through what we call the synoptics. Those three that look at the life of Jesus with sometimes the same stories: Matthew, Mark, and Luke. The Sundays that we may be more familiar with, there are 34 of these Sundays, and once again we go through all these events of the life of Jesus, that we're not dealing with a specific event, but all with his everyday life and all that he did and taught. This, of course, is far from ordinary. So one year we go through the Gospel on Sundays, we go through the Gospel of Matthew for the year. On another year we go through the Gospel of Mark. And then another year we go through the Gospel of Luke, which John kept for seasons of Christmas and Easter and so on. So ordinary time really fills in the whole picture of Jesus. We have the birth, we have the death, the resurrection, the coming again. But what about the in-between, as it were? All that Jesus said and did and taught. And when we reflect on these marvels, when we listen to the teaching of Jesus, when we reflect on the parables, when we marvel at the miracles, this is far from what we might call ordinary. But we give it that name in the liturgy because it doesn't deal with a specific event. As we meditate on these things, as we go through all of these things that Jesus said and did and taught, we come closer and closer to know the truth of Jesus, and therefore the truth of our own selves. And we see the one who is the way, the truth, and the life that we can follow and be disciples of. And ordinary time teaches us all of these things as we reflect on all the readings laid out for us at the table of God's Word. Ordinary time. A time, in one sense, anything but ordinary, because we're dealing with Jesus, who was extraordinary.